I just had such a good, impactful, meaningful, challenging conversation. My dear friend Nathan Unger. He's a dad, he's a husband, he's a pastor here in the North Georgia area, and he and I went to school together. We're actually roommates. Dear friend of mine. Was so excited to get to sit down with him, talk more about parenting, the way he's being intentional in raising his boys, and a new lesson that he's learned, which I don't want to give away. You have to listen. Here is my dear friend, Nathan Unger. Welcome to the family table. I'm Matthew Eford. Join me as I speak with parents, caregivers, and family experts about the joys and challenges of family life. We'll share the stories, advice, and insights that will help you build a loving and resilient family. Pull up a chair and join us at the family table. Welcome, everybody, to the family table. I have dear friend Nathan Unger here with me this morning. Nathan, thank you so much for joining us here at the family table. We're going to be talking all things family, how we can grow as dads and leaders, but as parents. And so just to start us off, Nathan, tell us about your family and what role you play in it.
Yeah, man. Again, thank you for having me on. Appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity. Again, humbled just to have a conversation. Glad we get to do it. And what better, I guess, conversation than to have about family, especially since we've been able to kind of see, our families grow over the years, even being involved in each other's weddings and so on. So yeah, deeply grateful to have this conversation. But just to jump in, yeah, I got married to my wife Anna of 9 years. We celebrated 9 years back in August, and I've got three boys: Hudson, who just turned 7; Sam, who will be 5 here in November; and then Judah, who is 2, going on about 12. Different.
Oh,
It is amazing, and people tell you this, and I think until you experience it, does it become real? But how each kid has a different personality,
yeah.
and we are truly figuring that out right now. So, but it's a joy. I wouldn't trade it for anything. And then, as you know, we're expecting in March of 2025. So we're excited about that.
Congratulations. Very
Um,
exciting.
we're pumped. Everybody's asked us if we're ready to have a girl, and I just keep telling them we'll be good either way. If we
That's
have
right.
another boy, you know what? That's great. We do boys. We got them. So, but if we have a girl, you better watch out because it's game over. So, we're excited about that. But yeah, the role, obviously father, dad, husband, all those things that come naturally, I guess. But also I'll throw in, spiritual mentor, definitely for my boys, but also spiritual leader of the home. When life comes at you fast, who does everybody look to? At least in my home, it's to me, whether it's for the answers, even though I don't have all the answers, or to, hey, what are we doing next? To vision, to direction, and that would be a huge piece. And I think for family too, it's like just natural things like, hey, security, a
Sure.
place of safety, just a place of hope, a place of encouragement. Try to keep those things at the forefront. Again, let me preface this conversation by saying I'm not perfect at any of these, nor is anybody, right? That the only person who did that was Jesus, and so,
Amen.
but I like to put that out there so that when people are listening, and something that I'll get into is to give yourself high grace, which I don't want to jump the
Yeah.
gun, but
No, no, you're good.
uh, you know, when people hear these ideas and hear these concepts, um, just know that we are figuring it out as we go as well.
Yeah.
And then one of my favorites and most recent would be coach. So
Okay.
we're starting, flag football this year, and had zero intention of coaching. And I'm sure that's how a lot of coaches get started. And just a series of events. About practice 3, jumped into assistant coaching, and here we are. So
That's
coaching
fantastic.
6 and 7 year olds in flag football, and it's a lot of fun. And we'll see where it goes. But
Have y'all had
yeah,
any game? Have they all had any games yet?
we've had 3 games, and it has been fun to watch. It is a different experience when you are coaching other people's kids
Sure.
again who have different personalities, different home lives, different I would even different micro cultures that they come from. We're all live in the same area. We experience a lot of the same things, but there's still the tidbits and the nuances of people's lives that you almost like that manifests itself through their kids,
Yeah.
which is a humbling thing to think about. Like when people experience your kids, like how they view you. But I mean, the kids are kids, and again, I go back to we give ourselves grace. So that's kind of in a nutshell some of the roles, and then obviously parent. So
Sure.
we'll get into that. That's the name of the conversation.
Sure. So you and Anna both very athletic. You and I room together, and
Used to be.
used to. Yeah. Well, okay. So growing up, you both are very athletic, and I know in college, we played a lot of intramurals together, played a lot of different sports.
Yep.
You definitely have a competitive side to you, which I always appreciate and enjoy playing with you and playing against you. Do you see that in Hudson? Has any of that come out yet, or has he seemed to be a little bit more timid as he's playing?
Yeah, that's what a great timely question. So, the beginning of the season, yes, we have had to pull it out. It definitely is within him, and we've had to encourage with the right amount, with some moderation, that it's okay to be competitive, that it's okay to try to not be the best, but do your best. And it doesn't always have to be the other person goes first, right? Like
Yeah.
if they're running to get a touchdown, you stop them,
Yeah.
right? You don't just let them go. So, but with that, it's also, hey, great sportsmanship, great encouragement. Trying to teach all these things uh, in a you know in somewhat of a short amount of time, but at the same time, we have time to do it. That's the point of this season that we're in, and that's
Sure.
for as a dad, I have to constantly tell myself that. What are the things that at the end of the season that really matter the most? And so, yes, he is as the season increases, his competitiveness increases.
Cool.
So
Yeah, that's cool to
um,
see.
it's cool to watch. Yeah,
And it's hard. I know as Walker's gotten into sports that Hannah and I played sports growing up, and we both have a very competitive side, and we will see some of that in him, and then see where he's just completely not interested. But
sure.
we have been in, and I've even been that parent that I've been like, I got to really temper what I'm saying here. My
Mm-hmm.
son's not going to get a scholarship on this field today.
Yeah,
What's important for him to learn? I love that you're kind of calling that out, especially as a
right.
coach. What's
Yeah.
most important that they learn here?
Mm-hmm.
Some self respect, some appreciation of others, the way to engage with others. So I love that y'all are doing that with the teams. I know for me, I have so many lessons that I learned. I have so many memories. So, kind of in line with that, talk to me about some of y'all's family traditions, memories. What are some things that you really enjoy doing as a family that you've been a family since you for 9 years, right? When you and Anna got married, but what are some things that you're trying to establish as your boys are growing up?
Yeah, that's good. So I think as a whole, definitely, we've gotten into a rhythm of kind of like our holiday schedule. So we with family being relatively far away, we've had to kind of schedule that, and so we bounce back and forth every year, Thanksgiving, Christmas, to her parents and my parents, and we have really tried to instill just I think the importance in general of family around the family table, if you
Sure.
will, right? So bringing bringing a sense of intentionality in the moments like holidays. That would be, I think, a big one. So, for example, Anna's Anna's family is like very big on, in a good way, on tradition and doing like the same thing every single year. So like for example, every single Thanksgiving they're going to her grandmother's house, and everybody's gathering there. Every single Christmas, for Christmas Eve, they will go to grandmother's house, spend Christmas Eve morning, and come back Christmas Eve night and celebrate Christmas in the home. And so that is something that we've done as a family. And the piece of that, and tradition, it can be a great thing. It
Sure.
can have its caveats too, I guess is a great way of putting it. That we want to make sure that we don't get caught up in tradition for the sake of tradition, but tradition for the sake of, hey, why are we doing this? The reason is because family is a high priority. We want to celebrate together with as a high priority, and so that's definitely something we've instilled. The other piece of it that I would say that just in general, we haven't necessarily established like a rhythm of what this looks like, but just being outside. So when we go to my parents' house, they live on a little bit of land, but there's a lot of land around, and so we make it a point to just be outside,
Sure.
and we try very hard. Again, not perfect, but try very hard to uh, limit our screen time with our boys, just because growing up we had screens. There's no doubt we had moments when screens were we probably were on them more than we needed to be, but the outdoors were a huge part. So whether it was camping, my family grew up camping a lot. That's one thing that we haven't done as much yet, but something that we want to get into. I
Sure.
know you and I have talked about that quite a bit. But just in general, so whether it's taking them fishing, Hudson and Sam love to fish almost more than I do, and so I have myself to blame for that one. And so we try to make those moments just staples that's the go-to rather than the TV screen or the
Yeah.
computer screen. And so those would be some of the big things that we try to include. So again, that is not necessarily like a specific tradition other than the holidays. I would say the holidays are definitely a specific thing that we lean on each and every year. But for now, that's what we're bringing them into.
I love that. And
Yeah.
it's so hard, right? As a young parent that you've now created your own immediate family, and
Sure.
you leave and you cleave and to your wife and you become a family unit. And it's easier before you get married or before you have kids to
Yep.
travel around the holidays. And then
Yeah.
you introduce kids, which for your parents is grandkids, into the situation. And if you're blessed to still have your parents alive or even your grandparents still alive, navigating some of those, we'll call it expectations
Yep.
around who you're going to be at and where you're going to be. So it sounds like y'all have definitely found a rhythm to handle that, and I admire that a lot. But another
Yeah.
thing that you said that I liked a lot is that it's more about the time together rather than the specific thing. I saw in my family and I saw in friends of mine that there were times where it felt like the tradition was the most important thing, and
Right.
it's instead of we're gonna be as a family, that the lines kind of got blurry there, right? Instead of it's just we're going to spend time together as a family and this is something we do, allowing that to be the tradition, mainly focus on together as a family.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And sometimes we even we're at fault. We try to say, hey, you know, without compromising, what the big travel plans and whatnot. We sometimes we have to be the ones to say, all right, we'll make it work for the rest of the family, even if it's a little bit inconvenient for us. Within reason, within
Sure.
guidelines, within boundaries, but definitely that's something that we hold tight to, and especially like you said, as we are very fortunate that I've still got grandparents living. She's still got grandparents living, and so we also want to take advantage of that time and
Sure.
allow our boys to be able to experience their great grandparents and their grandparents while we have the opportunity, because we know that that's not forever.
Yeah, I think that's really wise. And then to the second point that you brought up about time together as a family. So like for Hannah and I, a big deal for us is family dinner. And so
Hmm.
we do everything we can to remain consistent about dinner together as a family. We will do
Yeah.
things after dinner. We will do things before dinner. We will take the occasional date night where we go out to dinner. But normally, what we're doing is we're going out after dinner. That's just something that we've said this is important to us. It's
Yeah.
important for us to have this time together. And then to your point about screen time, right? I mean, everybody knows that screen time is not great, especially in development of a brain, but it's
Hmm.
so much easier, right? And no one's arguing that.
Yeah.
But as
Right.
parents, we're not called to in what is easiest, we're called
Yeah.
to what is best. And
Right.
so trying to navigate that balance between what is
Yeah.
best for my son or sons or daughters, and then what is maybe right for this moment, or generally that's just what's easiest in this moment.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I agree with you. It's
So
good.
talk to us about, like, as a dad, right? What do you, if you kind of look over your journey as a dad, the years that you've been a dad thus far, or as a husband, what's kind of been or some of the most rewarding aspects of that?
Yeah, that's good. I think seeing our boys learn and succeed at things, and sometimes, and I say learn, sometimes they're learning the hard way, right?
Sure.
They're learning through um, discouragement. They're learning through failure, and those are, when I say that, some of those are not super intense failures, not super intense discouragement. Like there's some room to experience that while they're still under the roof of mom and dad. But when you see them come through some of those hard things that they would consider hard, but maybe that you and I wouldn't consider hard, and to see them come out the other side stronger for it is certainly rewarding. But in the same vein, like when they succeed at things, like at a football game when Hudson catches the ball, or when he's able to run the ball, like to see them succeed at that, or to see them maybe read a sentence in a book for the first time, or catch a football or catch a baseball, or those little things that you and I maybe we take for granted, or maybe we just haven't really we haven't done in a long time, because it's been a long time since we first did something like that, right? But to see them experience some of those easy wins, I guess that would be considered easy for us,
Sure.
but maybe it's a first for them. I think is super rewarding. I was at a seminar this past week. It was for Generation Z. As a student pastor, we try to stay ahead of the curve as much as we possibly can. But there was a lady there, and I thought it was just a great analogy. Her name is Dr. Kathy Cook. She's from Dallas, Texas, and she said, so often we want to rescue our kids before they're able to experience victory, and when
Oh, wow.
we do that, we rob them of the victory that they could have done on their own. So, and it's amazing. So I come home, and then the following 48 hours, I begin to feel that urge of, like, well, and it's simple things like, my son's on the ground tying his shoes, and we're trying to get to practice. And I could do that in probably, half the time that he's doing it, but he's not going to learn how to do that
Yeah.
fast if I don't give him the opportunity to. Or if Sam is outside building something and he can't figure out, which piece goes here, or even when we start a campfire, like if I jump in too quickly and do it for them, they're not going to experience the victory of accomplishing that. And so I thought that was so rich. I thought it was so good. And to be able to see kind of the light bulb moment for your kid, when, especially a young child, when they're 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, experience something like that for the first time, it means so much more. And I think oftentimes, and I'm guilty of it, again, raising my hand, that we jump to try to show them how to do something to get it done fast and hope that they'll catch on, rather than letting them uh, kind of, meddle through it and
Yeah.
figure out the hard way. So that'd be definitely one I would point out.
I love that. Yeah, and it's so fun to see them go through successes, and to see them. Well, I saw Walker the other day reading a book, and he was so proud of himself that
Yeah.
he's really been working on that. He's been working to grow in that, and it was really cool to see, that he's getting to read and understand a book. That's
Mm,
fantastic, and it was
yes.
fun to celebrate him in that. But to your second point there, it is, man, so easy for me to want to push them to um, to be quicker than they currently are.
Right.
So getting their clothes on at night, right? It's the end of the day.
Yeah.
We're tired, right? If we've run a marathon all day long,
Yeah.
the finish line is in sight. And maybe there's no other parents that ever felt that way, but I feel that way. And I
Yeah.
am
No,
so
you're not the
ready.
only one.
I'm so ready to get everyone down, to get the doors closed, and to be able to just sit. And I find myself when I get hurried in that moment, man, I'm so much I'm quicker to frustration, maybe even anger at times. That I'm much quicker to respond in. You're not doing that fast enough. And I
Right.
look at my 3-year-old. I look at Abel, and it's like, how fast is he supposed to be able to put a diaper on at night, right? So it's just kind of a heart check, which is kind of what you're saying. It's just to remind ourselves to allow our kids to be in the appropriate developmental stage that they're in.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and I have to right size it and constantly tell myself that, hey, they've never been through this before. I've been
Yeah.
through it probably, who knows, depending on what it is, 50 to 100 times. And I had to constantly bring myself back to that point that they are seeing life through a completely different lens than we are. And oftentimes as parents, we expect them to see it through the way that we do it, or we know it, or we default. So.
Yeah. So kind of in line with this, are there anything specifically that you and Anna have done to try to help teach your boys and potentially maybe girl coming up or another boy, that you're trying to intentionally instill in them responsibility and independence? Are there any kind of slogans that you come up with? Are there any kind of activities that you're requiring them to do? What kind of steps are y'all taking to help instill that in them?
Yeah, for sure. So, we've started giving them very attainable chores. So, what do I
Cool.
mean by that? Things that they can do that make sense. I'm not as much as they would love to jump on the zero turn and cut the grass.
Yeah.
Probably not the best idea to just give
Not yet.
them free reign right now. So they'll jump on with me every now and again, and they love to do it. But things like, I mean, simple things like the dishes, taking care of the dogs, picking up their room, things that instill in them a sense of responsibility, that teach them, hey, like, there are things that we have to do. We may not always like to do them or choose to do them, but we definitely want to encourage that sense of responsibility. Hudson, one of the things that he's really enjoyed doing lately, he likes cooking eggs. So something very simple, but
Nice.
he figured out how to do it, and he every time we're like, hey, you guys want some eggs for breakfast? He's like, yeah, can I cook them? And I'm like, sure, man, go ahead. Just
I
don't
love that.
maybe don't cook them as long this time, or maybe a little bit less pepper.
Yeah.
Whatever the case may be. So we've and again, going back to what I mentioned earlier, in doing those things, allowing them to kind of work through it and not always be quick to rescue them from stuff that's hard. And as a parent, as a dad, as a mom, for my wife, like we want to sometimes like keep them in a bubble and not and part of it's because we've experienced life, right? And we want to take care of them, we want to protect them, we don't want them to experience maybe some of the things that we have. But at the end of the day, they have to
Yeah.
in order to grow into adolescence, to grow into teenagers, to grow into eventually adulthood, and those things are instilled in them now. and it's important. So simple things like that. But we want them to experience that now under our roof, rather than having to wade through that stuff when they're not under our roof. And
Sure.
so simple things. Again, I'm not telling them, hey, go cut the entire lawn right now. But it's, hey, tonight we really need you guys to do the dishes, or we really need you to put your clothes away. Now, we don't expect them to fold every piece of laundry and nicely lay it in their drawer. If
Sure.
that happened, that'd be great. But and I think that's the other thing too, is like not to expect perfection from a 4-year-old, from a 7-year-old, from a 8-year-old. Again, no one's perfect, but even something that we have to talk about constantly is, hey, we need to take this in baby steps. So when we ask them to do something, let's just teach them how to first, and then over time we'll refine it and get better at it. But to expect perfection, and I say this from a place of from doing that, like there's moments where, like, hey, why didn't you do it like this, or why didn't you put it up like this? And again, it's like, all right, pump the brakes a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
hey, they're young, they need to learn. And
Yeah.
so and learn from just doing it. So yeah, I think those are some of the very tangible, practical ways that we've encouraged them to do that. And
Love
and,
that.
and to that, we make a big deal of when they do it, and when they do a good job. So I'm making sure, and Anna's making sure, that we are encouraging and we are celebrating like 5 to 10 times more than
Sure.
shaking a finger or asking them not to do something. I was listening to I don't even know what it was, but this is a while ago. Is tell and this isn't advice. I'll just put that out there, but there was, and honestly, I think it was on Instagram now that I think about it, but parents took a day and didn't basically chose to not say no to their
Okay.
kids for one day.
Okay.
And the whole point is realizing not for what the kids would gain, but how often as parents we're shaking our finger at our kids and telling them no, 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 no,
Sure.
no, no,
Yeah, I
no.
actually think that's a movie. I think they've
Yeah.
actually made that into a movie yesterday.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So and I think, like, and it's a silly kind of example to see it like on a reel or whatnot. But I began like reflecting on that and just thinking, like, how many times do I tell my kids no in a 24-hour period for things that are, that may not even matter, or that maybe I'm just trying to overparent, if you will,
Sure.
rather than letting them be. So
Yeah.
we
So
try to make it.
you said so much good there. Let me touch on the first part of that. Um, Something that I'm really liking, a slogan I'm going to take from this, is don't try to rescue my boys. Um, Ultimately, it's the Lord's job to rescue them. But
Yeah.
the forefront of that is, I don't want to create weak men, and a weak man is someone who's always been rescued. And so I definitely don't want to do that for my boys, even though I like, as a dad specifically, I like to be a rescuer. That's one of the ways God's designed me, and so I've got to really check myself in that. So I love that you shared that. The other thing that I really like is the way that y'all are communicating with them. You're showing them you're not expecting perfection. One thing that I love, Hannah does such a better job than me than this. She does it many ways in my life, especially as a parent, but she does such a good job of checking me, but also our boys, and just saying, you know what? I don't think we've ever told you not to do that. So let's now address this now, instead of just blowing up on them. I can't believe you did that, or I can't believe you did that way. And they look at us like, well, why wouldn't I do it that way? And
Yeah.
then she and I kind of have this heart check of, you know what? Have we actually ever said this? Have we ever clearly defined out what is the expectation within our family, that
Right.
we do this or don't do this?
Yeah.
So a big thing for us is that they will respect their mother.
Hmm.
That is a hill that we have chosen to die on, that they
Yeah.
will respect their mother. And so we say that, but we also have to follow up with that and show them what that means. What does it
Right.
mean to respect your mother? Well,
Yeah.
here's what it looks like. It looks like this, not like that. Okay. You did this. This is how we need to do it next time. Instead of me just saying, I told you to respect your mother. Now you're getting a spanking, or now you're getting timeout, or now you lose your toys. And they're looking at me like, that's such an, that's so, it's so out there, so foreign to them to be able to
Mm,
define out and say, okay, here's exactly what I mean by that. Let me keep
right.
directing you to that. And then let me follow up on on a kind of another question. You talked about celebrating them. I love that you are trying to be intentional to celebrate when they do things right. So, there's an old management principle that you celebrate what you want to be duplicated. And so, what are some ways that y'all are seeking to or finding that you can celebrate your boys and maybe milestones they hit or achievements they hit or when they do the right thing that you've asked them to do?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I think it at a day by day level, it can just be simple things throughout the day. So, hey, you cleaned up this thing in your room. Thank you so much. That's a big deal. Or hey, you said an encouraging word to your brother rather than hitting him or tearing him down. I just want to point that out, that that's a big deal to us. Mommy and Daddy recognize that, and we want to make a big deal about it. So on a day to day basis, that is, I would say that's one of the things that we try to be very intentional about. But what that requires of us is that we have to be looking out for that.
Sure.
Because if we're not looking out for those types of moments, we'll get distracted and we'll miss them. So, and then I would say, like on a more, just on a life scale, things at school, like, markers at school, like reading a book, like I'd already mentioned, or maybe, solving a math problem, or, simple things that again come second nature to us, but might be a mountain for our kids to climb. We try to just we lean into making a big deal about encouragement and celebrating, but also trying to instill in them, not just celebrating them, but wanting to instill in them being able to celebrate others. So if somebody on the other team scores, like, hey, let's have good sportsmanship and go tell them great job. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to turn around and roll over, but we want to encourage people. Or maybe it's somebody at church that we saw that week that just I don't know, had some cool shoes on. Let's make sure we point that out. Say, hey, I really like your shoes. But making sure that the whole point of it is that the focus doesn't always turn back on us and what I want and what I can gain, but that there's this innate just default to pour out to others and to
I
celebrate
love that.
others. At the end of the day, that's the goal. The goal
Yeah.
is to have an outward focus on the people around us. But I think we have to demonstrate and example that, uh, and then take it step at a time, and then like teach them how to do that for others. So
Sure. Yeah. I
that's
love
definitely
that.
that's definitely I think how, and this might be a tangent, but we want to do that with generosity too. So what does
Sure.
it look like to be generous with our time, with our talents, with our finances? There's Sam, specifically our middle child. Every now and again, he'll come home, and one of his classmates will have given him like a little car, like a hot rod car or something,
Yeah.
and we're like, okay, well, did you grab one out of your collection of 100 cars and give one to him? And just making sure that that's a subtle reminder of, hey, are we also being generous? And so in that, he came home a couple weeks ago, and I don't even know what the scenario was, but he like went in his room and pulled out like a $20 bill and was like, hey, I'm gonna give this to so and so tomorrow. And we're like, oh, okay. What for? And he's like, oh, just because. And so as a parent, I'm sitting there like, okay, well, we've asked them to be generous. We've tried to teach them to be generous. Now, if I pull back now, he's about to give a $20 bill. What is that communicating? So
Sure.
it's moments like that where you celebrate their generosity, and you push them forward to having others first focus.
I
So
love that. So,
yeah.
let's, I appreciate your time, Nathan. Let's finish up with a couple of questions here. Number one, is there a book or book recommendation that you have that's really informed the way that you parent or that you interact as a spouse?
Yeah, there's a few. One of the ones that's been a huge help that it's been a while since I've read was "Raising Passionate Jesus Followers" by
Okay.
the Comers. So John Mark
Yeah.
Comer's
Yeah.
parents.
Yeah.
It's a good one, and another one that I think has been very transformative too is Five Love Languages that has been around for a while. They have a kids version, but that has helped us not only in our marriage for sure, but also how we approach our kids and how we raise our kids and how they're wired. So we have uh, one child who is heavy, words of affirmation, but he could care less about hugs or getting gifts and stuff like that. But we have another child who he could care less what you say, but he wants to jump up on the couch and snuggle with you, and he wants to give you 10 hugs before he goes to bed. And so like learning how each of them responds has been very eye-opening in how we parent each child differently and individually.
Love that.
And then there's another. We talked about kind of raising kids and getting into sports and stuff. There's a podcast out there that I thought was really good. That's the Pure Athlete podcast,
Yeah.
but
Oh, yeah.
they specifically the episode with Ben Watson. So
Okay.
he dives into a lot of things that we've already talked about, but prioritizing what matters most. And so I
Sure.
think, in a nutshell, I would encourage people to go listen to that one.
Yeah. We're putting the link to that, to the book. I haven't heard of the Comer's book. I'm excited to get that one. Love Five Love Languages. Read that one. Hannah and I were engaged, and I loved your point about it applies to our kids too, right? And to see the uniqueness and the way God's made them. And my role as a parent is not to have a cookie cutter approach to all of my kids and force them into a certain way to parent them. Is to be intentional to get to engage with each kid in the way God's made them. And then lastly, love Pure Athlete, love Jeff Rancour and the group and what they're doing there.
Yeah.
And some of the episodes they've had, but I'll definitely put the link in there for the Ben Watson one. So let's finish with this one. What advice would you give yourself 10 years ago?
10 years ago. So be present and enjoy the season that you're in is what I would say. So,
Cool.
um, we especially as parents, it is very easy to try to look to the next thing, and a lot of that has to do with we're tired, or maybe we're frustrated, or maybe we don't feel like sometimes in some seasons that there's no end in sight. And so it as a parent, as a young parent, and you probably get this all the time. People are like, enjoy it because it goes by fast. And
Yeah.
man, I wish I could be with my kids when they were that age again. And I kid you not, I probably hear that 2 or 3 times a week. And so in hearing that, I'm like, okay, yeah, I hear this now. I think I need to actually pay attention to this and try to see how that applies to my life. And so I think, one of my mentors has always said, take things in seasons, and knowing that, hey, if you're in a rough patch, uh, more than likely it's a season. There is a light, or there's an end to the tunnel, and that everything that happens. So whether you got young kids, like there's a season, like eventually they'll be preteens, or they'll be teenagers, or if you got teenagers, eventually they'll graduate out. And so just trying to be present, and the time goes by quickly. And if I could, thankfully I've had a lot of people around me tell me that, and still learning how to do it the best way possible. But if I could really, hammer something away, it would be that concept. So
Love
for
that.
sure, and that applies to your marriage, and that applies to kids as well.
Sure.
So
Yeah. Well, man, that's what an excellent way to end. Let's try to be present in a world that wants to make us distracted. It's very easy to be distracted, but what a great reminder, what a great piece of advice. Well, Nathan, thank you so much for sharing. We love you and your family and your boys. What a treasure to be a part of y'all's life. Thank you for the wisdom that you shared with all of us today.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Glad we could talk.
Of course, man. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of the family table. We will see you soon. Thanks, and God bless. Thank you for pulling up a chair at the family table. We hope today's conversation has strengthened the bonds that hold us together. Don't forget to follow the show to keep these heartwarming stories coming your way. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe and share it with friends and family. And if there's someone whose family story you think would be a perfect fit for the show, drop their name in the comments. We would love to hear from you and bring more families to the table. Until next time, cherish those moments with your loved ones.